If I'm recording. Okay. So I was saying that your research question at that stage, you make sure you're able to know how to collect and analyze the data. Which research approach you are going to use? The research approach is connected to research paradigm. We've talked about this, and I was talking about the research design. And I said if you're doing an exploratory study, it is a basic study. You don't know what is there. You want to explore. And most of these studies answers the question what. So you see the research question what is. And if it's more of a descriptive study, you are asking the question how. And if it's more of an explanatory study, you're asking the question why. Okay, so at your level, you either ask how or why. And remember that the exploratory study, in descriptive study, you explore, you can describe. So even though we are saying what for descriptive, how for descriptive study, some part of it might explore something. So you might see what somewhat. And also in an explanatory study, you might see how and also why. So you have the exploratory study in descriptive study, exploratory design in descriptive design, explanatory design, explanatory research design, descriptive being in what? Explanatory research what? Design. That's how it is. And these are the three broad research design. Under them, there are a number of types of what? Exploratory research design, a number of types of descriptive research design, and that of what explanatory research design. You could do a case study under descriptive research what? Design. You can do a case study under what? Explanatory research design. You can do a case study under what? Exploratory research design. So what I'm talking about, I'm taking it from the research question, even though we are talking about methodology. So it is a research question that is driving it. You see what research question is doing? It's driving literature, it's driving what? Your methodology. Also, at that same stage, you are asking yourself, how am I going to collect and analyze what? My data. And remember, your research design is linked to your method of data analysis. It's linked to that. If you're using descriptive research design, it means that you are almost likely to use descriptive statistics. Hello? Yeah. Okay? That is if it is more of a quantitative study. All right? So if you are doing more of an explanatory research design, then I want to see something of an impact analysis, something like regression, explaining the model, something like ANOVA or structural equation model where there are other variables that you're explaining. All right. So at the methodology stage, you have your research approach, you have your research design, research paradigm, research design, and then sometimes we bring the data sources. We want to know at that level, which types of data that we are going to look at, the primary and the secondary data sources. And then more importantly, your population of the study, your sampling size, and the sampling technique. You need to define your population of the study. And what is population of the study? The population will talk about your object or people or any other thing, okay, that the study is looking at in terms of data, okay, or in terms of responding to what? In terms of the research, area. So that's your population. So if I'm doing a study, for instance, on your topic, procurement management, and it's a case study of a certain bank, my population of the study will be that bank. More importantly, I want to trickle it down. More importantly, if it concerns the procurement department, then that will be my population of the study. They are those that the research affects them. So population doesn't simply mean that you're going to just select groups that do not even relate to your study. More often we say those who are going to respond, they are the research respondents in your area of study. But it doesn't really mean that it's everybody who constitutes part of the population. Your population could be objects. I did my study and my thesis was on the ports, and my population of the study were my population was not the stakeholder. I mean, they were vessels.
What was the topic about?
They were vessels, optimizing the use of berthing space. Okay. So I was dealing with vessels and containers. Okay. So that was my population of the study. Okay. So population doesn't really mean human beings as we think. It could be objects, it could be animals, it could be human beings. That is your study area, the environment within which you want to study, and those who are going to respond, or how you're going to collect that particular data. In research, it's important that we use the population to describe, in broad perspective, our research respondents, those who are going to respond to our research and all that. But there's a need, because resources are limited. We cannot collect or ask each individual questions. Okay? The reason why there's a need for what? Sampling. Now, if you are doing a quantitative study, remember the paradigm says that you are coming from an objective point of view. So, once you are coming from an objective point of view, it is important that you align yourself with a sampling technique that is more objective. So the quantitative study comes with a paradigm. That is the positive paradigm. That comes that believes that there's an objective way of measuring what? Data. In that case, it aligns with the probability sampling what? Technique. Hello? It aligns with what? The probability sampling technique, where you have the random sampling, the systematic sampling, the stratified sampling, etc., etc. And if you are doing qualitative, then it means that you're aligning yourself with what? The non-probability sampling techniques, where you have convenience, you have positive sampling, snowballing, etc., etc. So if you say your study, still from the research question, maybe research question 1 is quantitative, but research question 2 is what? Qualitative. Then what it means is that you are doing a mixed study. Okay? Sometimes even research, question 3 is both qualitative and quantitative. Okay. Did you get what I'm saying? So it's still a mixed study. So we are still driving it from what? The research questions. So if you are doing a mixed study, please, the quantitative study, quantitative research approach has its own paradigm. Qualitative has its own paradigm. Quantitative comes from an objective point of view. It uses larger sample size. Okay? Qualitative comes from what? A smaller sample size point of view. Because whilst quantitative is dealing with the fact of looking at an objective way of measuring data or analyzing things, the qualitative is looking at meanings, understanding, perspectives. So whilst the quantitative is looking at that, it means that the qualitative study is not interested in larger sample size. It is interested in understanding perspective. So we are looking at individuals' perspective, individuals' understanding, individuals' meaning. And that's why we're using that paradigm. So come to think of it, if you pick a sample size and you're doing a mixed study, indicate that that relates to either the quantitative part or the qualitative part. You can't pick, and some of you do this, you combine closed and open-ended questions, and you use random sampling, pick a sample size, and then administer it for the entire population, and then you say it's mixed study. Already you have a problem with the qualitative aspect. Do you get it? You have not been able to deal with that paradigm because we are dealing with not large numbers. We are dealing with what? Numbers that are smaller. But the paradigm is interested in meanings, understanding. The paradigm is not interested in views of so many people. All right? So this is what I tell students. When you address the qualitative or quantitative aspect, in the qualitative aspect, what you can as well do is that you can use that same, they will ask you, how did you get your sample size? Out of maybe 1,000 people, according to research advisors, maybe with a significance level of 5%, they recommended that out of 1,000, I can choose 200. All right? Then how do you address the qualitative part? Maybe you did that based on random sampling. The qualitative part. Now you are talking about experience, meaning, understanding. So you can conveniently say that those guys, based on the number of experience they have in that industry, okay, or based on their expertise in that area, you decided to purposively select them or conveniently select them, or you did the selection based on snowballing. That it was not easy getting them, so you use referral. Okay, and you have to address that too. These two, if you're using mixed study, you have to address them very well. Once you've done that, your method of data analysis is there. You don't have any issue. And then you need to also throw more light on that, the methodology about ethical issues, which are very key. Which is very key in research, ethical issues. How were you able to protect the confidentiality of your respondent? Was there any informed consent? Okay, how were you able to protect them from harm? Did they understand what they were doing? Were they coerced? You need to talk about that. And also talk briefly about validity and reliability. How are you going to deal with it? The validity of the study will show that what the study intends to measure, that is what it's measuring. In other words, if you said that your research approach was quantitative, in validity, we expect that your research paradigm will be positivist approach or post-positivist or whatever. We expect that your research design also aligns with what your method of data or analysis. We expect that if you are doing a quantitative study, the way you come out with your sampling size and technique is based on what? An objective way, not subjective way like the non-probability sampling technique. So these are the things that will let you know that really if your construct is valid or not. And then reliability has to also do with the instruments that you use in, collecting the data and analyzing. And if you decide to do a simple retest reliability, you can do some sort of piloting and then say that I want to quiz Raymond, okay, on something. I give him a questionnaire, or maybe I'm conducting an interview, and I say that Raymond, I'm asking you this question at 9 o'clock. I come back at 12 and ask Raymond the same question. If the answers that Raymond gave to me are not consistent, and it means that I have a reliability issue. Sometimes because of the presence of Raymond boss, Raymond is not comfortable to answer that question. So if you are doing more of a qualitative study or a quantitative study and you're administering these questionnaire to people, you need to see whether the responses that you are getting are reliable. And there are several ways to also to ask the same question to see if you can get the same answer. If you do not get the same answer, then it means that there are issues with what the instrument that you are using. Sometimes the question itself that you construct, okay, it might be wrong. All right.
Yeah.
Example: if you are talking about income level, if you go and then state that income, you have a Likert scale kind of instrument for your scale, and you ask this question, tell us if your income level is high, or use this to rate your income level. Then you say high, low, high, moderate, and then low. Now, the guy, based on where he finds himself, he is taking a salary of 2,000. To him, it is high. So he has indicated high. There's another respondent who is taking 10,000. He has also said high. What it means is that the scale that you are using is inappropriate. So what you could have done probably as a piloting stage, is to probably ask them to indicate their salary. So that when you gather the data, you would use the salary figures to determine the ranges. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rather than, and these are some of the common mistakes that we commit in research. So then your instrument will not be, will not make your data reliable. We are saying that if I use that instrument repeatably, okay, when I repeat it, should I get the same what? Am I going to get the same result? That's our reliability. All right. So you have to look at that. And then finally, you also have to look at what we call the significance of the study. The significance of the study, you are looking at three things. The significance of the study to the case study organization, the industry where you are conducting the study. How is it going to shape the organization in terms of the problem that you indicated? You need to indicate that. Two is, in that same industry, how is it going to reform policy? How is it going to shape policy? And the third one is, how is it going to add knowledge to the body of knowledge? And that's very, very important, because at this stage, we only add something little to the body of knowledge. So what I've tried to do is to give you a very broad perspective into how to handle your proposal. But primarily, what happens is that you have your introduction, you have your problem statement, you have your objective of the study, research questions, a hypothesis, if any. You come to your significance of the study, and probably go to your preliminary literature review, where you have the theoretical review, empirical review, and if you have any conceptual framework you want to develop, you add to it. Then you come to preliminary methodology, where you have your research approach, research paradigm, research design, population, sampling size, sampling technique, and the data, method of data analysis. You have your ethical issues, you have validity and reliability. And then you add significance. We've talked about it. You add your limitation of the study, what the research is, and remember to add that to it. And then finally you can conclude. Okay, anytime you are writing any paper you introduce, please make sure you conclude. If you have opened the gate, you are done with the work, close it. Okay? But let's look at your introduction. You see, I've not talked about what goes into your introduction. When you are finished with all this, you come back to write the introduction. So the introduction in proposal writing is the last thing you write. Now, so what do? I have prescribed 4 areas to look at with the introduction. Now, the first part has to talk about his historical perspective of the topic under consideration. So here's statement like over the past decade, in recent times. You understand? Trying to introduce the reader to the topic. So you are talking about procurement management and impact on financial performance. Maybe you might say that over the past decades, that is, in fact, that introduction, that aspect is something that you should own. It is the reader's perspective, having read wide on that subject matter. I see people put overviews there or quote overviews there and then refer to somebody. Doesn't mean that there's nothing in your head. Why are you picking someone's overview? Give that background based on your experience and understanding of the subject matter. So over the past years, industry players and academia have been worried of there's great concern about procurement management and impact on what? Financial performance. You are bringing some perspective to what? Bear. And then from there, the next stage is that now you define the variables or the concepts with references in there. So in your case, you have to define what is procurement management. You have to define what is financial what? Performance. It's important you define that. When you are done with that, state the aim and objective of the study. So from that end, the aim of the study is the whole topic, isn't it? The objective specifically, then you go and then copy the objective. You put it there. First objective, comma, second objective. If you want to change the language, you can talk about the outcome of the study. It's the same as what? The objective of the study. Okay? And then when you are done, now you go back to your problem statement. Go and copy the justification of the study. But before that, your problem statement, a brief of it, and the justification of the study and the significance of the study. You put them together, you summarize them, and you add it as part of what? The introduction. Your introduction shouldn't, go into 2 pages and all that. It's an introduction. Remember, people do review in introduction. It doesn't make sense. I have to read it and then I'll be stimulated to read the whole proposal. So a 1-page introduction is okay. And if you will realize at the end of the, apart from the overview and the definition of the key terms, the rest of the things that I've talked about is in the main work. So you don't struggle to write what? Introduction. Doesn't make sense. So this is what I did with your colleagues, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Other than that, I think that I've attempted to solve a problem. I don't know to a large extent if I have solved the problem. And research is interesting, so take it serious. I have told your colleagues when they came here, research does a lot for us at the master's level. It does a lot for us. If you do all your coursework and you don't do your research work, okay, you've just killed yourself. Because the kind of experience that you bring to bear, what you will, the stages that you will walk through, you won't get that experience from anyone. Seriously, you won't get it from anyone. Can you imagine that you take a whole week to dig and search on the net and find articles and you are not finding? Can you just imagine how frustrating it will be? That activity, that frustration, is part of the work. Because we are saying research. So why do you expect that when you go, you find it? There's something that is hidden that you want to unearth it, isn't it? So you have to go through that process. And you see, when you search and you don't find anything, remember you found something. You have read something later. And if you look at the composition of the whole thing we do, the whole structure, the way we write, even the way you write literature review, technical report, inquiry report, any kind of report you see in your organization is written using these formats. So if you kind of learn how to do this thing and you become a master of it, it's going to help you. If you know, and at your stage, I tell your colleagues, if they give you any form of data, you should be able to know what kind of analysis to apply at the master's level. It's not a joke. You should know that. And so that is why you have to take this work very serious. Those of you who are interested in outsourcing, I don't understand. Up to now, I don't get it. A full-blown person like you give your work to another person to do it for you, and then you pay that person. You know what you miss? You pay money and lose big time. Because that knowledge that you are supposed to have gone through, and see, the 13 models you do, even if you combine 13 plus 30, what do you get? 26. If even you do 26, you cannot compare that to the project work. It doesn't come anywhere near at all. Because what you do, there's a question you answer, isn't it? You go and write exams. It doesn't come anywhere near. Yeah. That's why if you finish the coursework and you don't do the research work or your project dissertation, they give you a postgraduate diploma. Okay, the MBA will be given to you when you do the research. In fact, is the thesis that gives you the master's degree. So take it very serious, please.